And this panel is about using references and tracing, and what's the differences, and why you should not trace, obviously. And I'm sorry if my English is not perfect. I hope you can understand me. I try my best. And if you have questions, please raise your hand, and I will point at you and you can ask a question. Otherwise, at the end, we'll sure have time to ask a question. Yeah, so first thing, tracing. It's just like, oh, yeah?
Could you speak up a little bit, please?
I try to. I'm not very loud naturally.
Down.
Can everybody hear me in the back? Like this? I can hear you. Can you also hear me when I sit down? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, fine.
I try my best to keep on it. So yeah, tracing is obviously just plain copying, but most people confuse tracing with inspiration and referencing and all the stuff they just make up. And I separate only between using references and tracing. And for me, there are two big parts of using references. It's using references for final artwork, like trying to make your artwork accurate, so everything is correct. Because most people think they know how something looks and draw it, and maybe people will even recognize what it's supposed to be, but it's not entirely correct. It's like, the best example is draw a bike. Everybody knows how a bike looks like, and if I quick draw a bike, it would probably, I don't know, I can draw you one. It would probably look like something like this. Just like, it has thingy where this thingy comes out, and there's this thingy, and there's a brake thingy, and it has perspective, and so yeah, there's something like this, and then there's a wheel, and these things, and probably like this, and maybe like this, and yeah.
Oh.
It's my bike. I totally don't know how a bike looks like, but everybody of you will recognize this as a bike. It's more like a symbol of a bike because I don't know all the details of it. And if you look at a real bike, I mean, like a photo of a bike, you will see it doesn't look like it at all. And fails. So, yeah, it's pretty close. Maybe a little bit wonky, but my perspective is better. So yeah, it doesn't work at all. Yeah. So this big part is about using references for accuracy in your final artwork, and the other big part I will talk about is using references for study, like when you try to make muscles and try to learn how everything works in anatomy or different animal heads. And it's also about how you can learn to look up what you need instead of memorizing everything. If you're just memorizing all the information and you can draw everything without references, it's good, it's perfectly fine. If you sit in the artist lounge and you can draw everything out of your head, it's fun, because everything you memorize is your comfort zone. And your comfort zone is what you can draw just like no problem. The good thing is when you study, when you make studies and you learn right, that your memorized information will get bigger, and so your comfort zone will get bigger. So it's never bad if you draw a lot and make studies. The only downside of making studies is that it's hard. You can't just turn off your brain and like, oh, I draw and it's fun, and yeah, I draw what I want, and draw scales for hours, and I don't need my brain. Who cares? Okay. Yeah, if you make studies, you have to stay focused all the time. That's why I only make studies 1 hour a day. I just can't go longer because you have to be focused all the time. And also try to memorize things. So it's pretty hard work. And people who have a big comfort zone worked hard for it. And other people maybe say, yeah, you got talent, but really there's a lot of hard work behind this. Yeah, the other big thing is you have to make a plan of what to learn. There are things like anatomy that are pretty basic, and it's good if you memorize something like that because many things build up on that. if you draw anthropomorphic characters, they will have some similarities to human anatomy, so it makes sense to learn humans, make life drawings as much as you can. And there's also specific stuff, like let's say you make a commission and the commissioner wants an Indian elephant and you never draw one in your life before. So you will look it up and you will make studies, try to memorize the thing, but it's not something you will need every day. So it's good if you make studies and learn this too, but it's nothing basic you will need every time. So if you learn something, like if you have time and think you should make studies, learn the basic things, obviously perspective and anatomy, that's never bad. It's always good to do. Yeah. Now we go to the next total fail right away, tracing. And why tracing is bad for you. Not only that you just steal artwork, that's what most people think is bad about it. Like, you go there and just take an image from the internet you like. Like, I have this super awesome art from Rotarr. I am allowed to trace this now. Yeah, I think it looks like my character a bit, and I just go there and place some white on it so I can see a little bit, and then I take my pen and just I will show you just for a second what exactly you do. You just trace the lines you see, like this. There's no understanding of the form. You don't understand.
I know this problem.
Yeah. Anyway, you just copy the lines from this 2D image. This image is already two-dimensional, and you just copy the exact same positions of lines without understanding the three-dimensional form underneath. That's why, if you trace a lot, you actually destroy your understanding of three-dimensional art. Because everything you draw is basically a three-dimensional object, but transferred to a 2D surface. And with this, you totally destroy your ability to do that. If you do it a lot, and if you do only that, or if you start like that. That's also why I never recommend, if you're a starter and you never draw, and you think, I want to start, and people say, yeah, as a starter, tracing is okay. I totally not recommend that, because you draw, but you don't learn anything. It's like, yeah. And over time, you will also grow inconvenient, because you can only take what's already there and copy that. Yeah, so if you do this and this comes out, and no, wait. And very bad is it when somebody tries to sell this. It's a bad spot, that's why. That's just not okay. I also tell you, if you are a commissioner and you see something like that, you can tell trace art pretty easily, because you just see on the wonky lines and that there's no real form around it. It's just like, somebody traced it. You can just see that. And if you see somebody doing that, I think it's okay to call it out. Yeah.
Is there a difference with using a photograph instead of an art, like if you want to learn from the photograph?
Yeah, I will come to that. I mean, I personally think it's also not okay to just trace a photo like this, just trace the outlines, because you will also not learn anything. It's just 2D information you copy. And if you draw, even from photograph, if you use references, this was this about, you try to understand the three-dimensional form. But we will come to that later. I will show you. Yeah, so, bad. To come back to my example with this bike, it's purple. As I said, most people think they know how something looks, but they actually do not. And sometimes it's not that obvious, because if I tell you, I mean, some of us are artists and they know this already, we draw this a lot, but some people don't know the differences between a cat nose and a dog nose. But if you tell them, draw a cat, a cat, I draw a billion cats, I draw a dog now just like it, just like a nose like this. It's not much difference. So, no. If you look up how a cat or a dog nose really looks, this is a dog nose, it's a cat nose. They're super different, but most people don't have this in their head. They just think it's this dot in the face here somewhere. And they have a Toonie style anyway, so it doesn't matter at all. But it doesn't, it's not important what style you're drawing, it's that you yourself abstract the reference. That you know how something looks, and then draw it in your style. And this style thing everybody's talking about, everybody wants his own style, it will just come over time. And it will come more easily if you just draw from photo references. It's not bad to use other people's art as reference, because let me show you a second. If you see this, and especially if you're a beginner and you have a hard time making out the forms exactly, you just say, yeah, okay, I see this is bigger, it's round, and this is a rectangle, but you have a hard time to really see what's the difference. It's good to look maybe at other people's art and see how they do that. Like here, it's a good example. Wolfie drew a dog nose and a cat nose. Wolf nose. And you can use this and say, yeah, okay, yeah, it's a rectangle, and it goes a little bit down in the middle. And the dog nose, I mean, has this flat shape on top. The reference doesn't have this strong, but Wolfie draws it very strong. It's his style to draw it like that. And if you look at his art alone, if you don't see this reference image, you think, okay, it's a dog nose, I draw it exactly like that. But then you look also at the photo image and see it's a little bit different. How would I do that? Like, this looks good, everybody knows it. How do I draw this? Maybe I can mix my own style in and show you in a second. Like, just start drawing, like, okay, I draw the nose from the side now, like Wolfie did, maybe it's a little bit more round, because he draws it very straight, I draw it round, my art starts round, whatever, and then we'll go see Wolfie draws it like this, and so just combine images. I mean, it's even better if you have more references than just one. And I draw dog noses now like this. It's not perfect, sorry, but you get the idea. Yeah, and then you maybe draw it from other angles as well. Just quick. Like, it's not very good now, but you get the idea. Just, if you think you know something, but you don't know exactly, just look it up. Many sources, different sources. Make sketches, tiny sketches. They don't have to be perfect, just to get an idea how to draw something. And now we come to the point of how I would recommend using photo references. Because as I said, with the other picture, like with the tracing picture, if you just copy the 2D image, you will not learn the three-dimensional form. And what also can happen if you use lots of photo references for poses and everything, you will draw very dependent on the photo references. You will soon notice, so you have this blank piece of paper like, oh, I have no idea and I have no clue how to start. I need a photo to hang on to something and draw it, even if you're not tracing it. So it's always better if you just start out making a sketch, like even if it's totally wrong, just like a stick figure, this is the pose I want. And then go from that. Because, oh sorry. Most people start, I want to show somebody showing an error. I go to DeviantArt and pick one picture, like, I don't know, this one there. This looks good, I like to draw my character like that. And then I just draw next to it exactly this pose, and yeah, I'm happy. This can work, and it's not bad if you do this if you're not tracing it, but if you use it as a reference to draw exactly this pose, it's not bad. If you're in a hurry or something, but if you have time and want to put your own heart into it, and you want to learn something, just look up many different poses and how this looks, how the feel is. Then sit down, make a sketch. I made one, prepared one. That's not good, but that's the pose I want to this one is very similar, so yeah. Just get all the reference you can get, and then correct the sketch. Like, I drew the hand like really wonky because I don't know how this would grip. Here you see how the hand would hold it. This one is a little bit unrealistic, but yeah, you just use this and go over it again with your reference images. Like, I don't do everything now. I just draw this hand. That's, for example, see this angle is wrong, but I have many other angles here, and I do lots of hand reference sketches, so I just try to fit in what I see. The font goes over here. Doesn't even have to be perfect, just you can correct the sketch as often as you want. Just try to make something original, not just copying. Yeah, not only here, for example, it would be good if I know a little bit better anatomy. I should look up more information before I draw it, but for now we have to live with it. Just see here, yeah, there's a little hill. I draw a little hill here too, and you go on like that. And also, I saw now, most people, if they shoot an arrow, they hold their arm up, but I drew it kind of down. And this guy is unrealistic, so this pose doesn't really work. But this one is very realistic here, which is good. So I study, this arm goes up, not down. So I have to change this here too. This arm goes up. And to correct my sketch. And as soon as I see something, I correct it, I analyze what's here, and just try to combine my initial sketch with the references I have. Yeah. Here goes, has this thing. The more references you have, the better. That's also why I recommend digital artists to have 2 screens, because the more you can see, the better. I can only see this 4 now. And then you draw the ears and the furry nose and
Close enough.
yeah, it's not like you have your photo and draw. It's always like looking something up, get an initial idea, especially if you have no idea about the topic, like I don't have any clue about yours. You look up, get an idea, make a sketch, make a few sketches maybe, then pick one, correct it, look more references, go back and forth. It will take a lot of time, but this way you will memorize things. Because if you just draw the pose, like if I just take the first pose here and draw this, I don't learn so much. If I draw this, I wouldn't even recognize that the arm goes a little bit up and down. It's all this stuff. If I just copy this, I don't even know. And next time I draw somebody shooting an arrow, I will have all this information already in my head, and I don't have to look up so many references. So that's the right way to do it, in my opinion. There are quicker ways, like just copying the pose. That's also okay. No one should kill you at that. If you use exactly this pose, you should give credit for it. There's nothing bad about giving credit, because, yeah, you used somebody else's art. This is somebody else's work, so you should credit them for that. And if you use, this is a stock image from DeviantArt, they want you to use it. So they're happy if you use it. They're also happy if you give them credit, so other people can find this reference images too. So you're a big community, and it's just a matter of honesty to give the people credit where it's due. If you there's this topic about inspiration and everything. I mean, if you don't draw it exactly and you change things about it, yeah, it's up to you if you want to give credit. I like to give them, even if I change a lot of it, because other people should get the resources too. Everybody should know where the stuff comes from. Yeah, and what if you draw something that's not real? Like, how can I look up references from dragons? Like, there's not a dragon flying around. I could just take a picture and then, yeah, will not happen. This is this is positive and negative sides. Of course, negative side is there is no clean reference. You could just look up like, oh, this is the anatomy, I just draw it like that. But on the other hand, you have more freedom. You can look up different reference images and just combine them as you want. Like, just gather a bunch of stuff. I also like to gather art from other people. Like, just to look up how other people combine this stuff. And I, for example, for dragon, like to use Komodo dragons and this stuff, and feline anatomy for the body. And to just take the things and play with it. I mean, the problem with most people is that when they make studies, they always try to make something final, something to show off to the internet. But the best thing is just to make lots and lots of sketches and see what works and what doesn't work. Okay, who cares? 5 minutes of sketching for nothing, but you know now that for a complete dragon how to take forever because I'm not so fast. But what I also like to do is combining references you don't think would fit into, like a dragon with this. How could you make a dragon out of a toad? You just take what you like about this creature and put it into your design. Like, I start off now some sketch. It's very not very accurate. It doesn't even have to be the same angle. You just draw your face you want to have. Like, this thing has a short nose and make the eye here. It has a very slim jaw. Maybe we can combine these two. Or maybe we go completely different because it's a dragon. I can draw what I want. I don't have to draw it like a toad. I give him a prominent chin. And then the neck thing, like all these warts. Draw on later here. It's nice. It's you can decide what you take and what you leave, and you can just go wild. That's the fun thing about using this stuff for reference, because you get ideas, something to hang on here, and just put it into your design. Like this funky tool. And funny shape witches. Yeah. Just continue like turn these things and just draw it a few times, even if it's the ear, who cares? And just draw like 3 ears on the side of his head. Maybe I want to combine this now. I combined a lot of his surface texture on it, like more and stuff. But maybe I want to combine a little bit more about the anatomy, and let's give him some frog legs, bat, toby legs, bat, toby dragon. Oh, I need to mix. Yeah, and it's your decision what you want to combine. And here you would hardly see I use this as a reference, but you get lots of different ideas if you use lots of references to just combine into your design to make something more original than to just draw this average everyday dragon everybody draws. So the other thing is, I mean, this is now this was now using references for final images and for design ideas, but if you want to make studies, as I said, there are other ways to study than to just copy this. If you just sit there and draw every muscle, you will memorize things too, but it's just like playing copying again. Like with the 2D image, you just copy what you see here, but you don't really have the understanding of the three-dimensional form. So this is now a little bit more for beginners, because more advanced artists would not need to do this. But what I liked to do when I started out was I take a picture, and this is basically tracing. So I don't use this for final stuff. It's just for me as a practice. I don't want to show this anybody, so it's okay. and just try to break it down into the basic forms. Like I try to sketch in where the backbone is, and I also like to draw the front line to just get an understanding what this 2D image tries to look like in a 3D room, to grab around it. And then I break this down here. There's a brick shape here. And then here. Make this a little bit less transparent. You see it better. Draw the basic stuff, and then I look up, maybe with a different color. Where are the muscles I see here on this body? And this is a study that really takes a lot of brain and is very exhausting because not everybody looks alike. So it's hard sometimes to find the muscles. You just start up here, the collarbone goes here, and then these muscles, the shoulder muscles, are attached here, here, and go here, and see, now, again. There's a shadow, so this muscle goes over here, like here. Oh, I drawn it wrong layer. Ah, shit. And just try to break it down, try to find where the muscles are on this body, to memorize it a little bit more. And then we have this, I think that's the biceps, goes here. You don't need to learn the names of the muscles, I think it's unnecessary. And here, on the back of the arms, like here, all these muscles spring into this point. So make here. And even if it's not on the picture, you try to over-exaggerate where it is to find everything. And if you do this a lot, you will probably memorize how the muscles connect to each other. It's more important to learn how the muscles flow into each other than to really know there's this muscle, there's this muscle, there's this muscle. This will not help you with drawing. Because later, I like to make lots of, maybe if somebody knows my sketches, I like to draw fluent lines over the drawing. These are partly muscles, but also like lines to draw around the three-dimensional shape. Some people like to make it like this to show off three-dimensional. I like to just go and draw these fluent lines on it to grasp the three-dimensional space. Everybody draws different, and this is also a way to find out how you like to draw. I draw very angular, like with lots of angular shapes. Other people like to draw more like this and like to find the form more like this kind of perspective, swirls. You can get this too, the idea of the three-dimensional form, and then try to trace around it. And later, if you're a little bit better and a little bit more convenient, you don't draw it on the picture, but next to the picture. Not over it, just beside it. The problem with this is, most people are like, yeah, okay, now I learned a lot about details and a lot about the three-dimensional shape, but I just have a problem with proportions. Like, if I draw it next to him, yeah, okay, I know where the muscles are now, but I draw the arm too long or something like that. And sadly, the only way to really get rid of it is like to make lots and lots of drawings. But not drawings that take 1 hour each, because then you go crazy, and you will never learn, because if you take 1 hour for drawing, you sit there forever. And that's why most people like to do light drawings. And everybody says that do it, it makes lots of sense to draw from life and everything, and if you start out, you're like, but 2 minutes is too short, I can't get the form down, and it's so hard. But that's the point. You don't need to draw everything. If you draw something like that, not everybody has to recognize what it is. Like, what is this? Nobody knows, but if you start out, it's just important to draw a lot. Even if nobody can see what it is, just let it go. Don't try to draw when you see a person in front of you to draw everything and scribble around it. Just make shoop, whoop, and draw a person. If you want to draw a person, it's very simple. Like, You just take your pen and say, okay, here's the head, very wonky, there's the line to the spine, there's something here and here and here, and legs, and it will be full of mistakes, of course. But I took like, don't know, 30 seconds for this drawing, and you do this a lot and you will get better. You don't believe it at first because it's hard and it looks like this, and who likes that? Nobody would like to show this to anybody. But that's not the point of making studies. Studies are not here to show to the internet and get comments for. Studies are for yourself. You do this for yourself so your art gets better. So you have to bite through it and make like a billion of these stupid thingies, and in the end you will realize you get a feeling for the proportions. And as I said, with this bow example, if you have this down, you can always correct it. If you make like 15 thumbnail sketches like this, and you find your pose and think this is okay, I like this pose, then just go on, look up references, and correct what's wrong, and so you can get to your final picture. But it's important to start out with this live drawings, because your hand needs to get free of this two tiny drawings. You need a flow in your hands, so it's easier to draw. And I recommend, if you can, to make these drawings from life. To get a model, maybe get a friend, not to undress, you can draw the clothes too. Just let him pose, make different poses very quick, and just draw it. And if you draw it from real life, if you draw the three-dimensional form, it's harder, but it's more rewarding, because you translate the 3D person into a 2D image. Here you already have a 2D image, and you're just basically copying it again. It's not bad if you don't have friends who pose for you. Use internet pictures. There's some, in the internet you find some scripts that show you images every second, and just draw them very quick. That's okay too, if you have nobody else, but I recommend get somebody to pose for you. It's really rewarding and you learn a lot. Yeah, and the last thing I want to talk about is speed painting and color speed paint sketches. Because if you make studies, there's this drawing part, like learning proportions and muscles and all this stuff. If you make studies or learn how an animal head looks like. But there's also this other side where you make color studies. Like you just want to get down how the colors of an image work. And the best thing to do this, I like to do this a lot, is just speed painting. And for this I have to switch now to Photoshop, because I don't like to do this in Sai. I don't actually like Sai very much, but my Photoshop is very laggy. So I had to, but yeah, just close this and switch to Photoshop. So, if you want to, if you make a speed painting, the first thing, I think speed paintings are studies. I don't think of speed paintings as I make a speed commission, because that's maybe a sketch, a quick thing, but the speed painting is for me a study, and the studying purpose is the main goal of this thing. So if you start this, if you look at the picture, first get in your head, what do you want to learn from this? Why do you do this? Don't make, as I said a lot of times, don't make studies just to show off, because it's easy to copy this picture. Like, it's not so hard if you really copy the colors one by one. It really looks photorealistic very easily. But don't do this just to show off, to post it on Tumblr and say, hey, I'm so great, I can do this super realistic landscapes very fast. Just try to get down, do you want to learn the form, how do you want to learn how these water waves work, or do you want to learn just how the color composition works, or do you want to learn how to pick colors from the picture? And if you get this done, and if you have this idea what you want to learn from the picture, it's way easier to make an efficient study of it. So I want to learn here how the colors work. I don't really care for the form. I just want to learn how to see colors, basically. So if I have this picture, it's like very hard to see, okay, there's like a billion blue tones. But I have no idea which blue tone this guy actually is or which one to take as basic. So this is also, if you're new to this speed painting, I recommend just copy your reference image and use the filter pixelate crystallize. I like this very much because you can it just takes the middle image, the middle color of an area and shows it off to you. So you have this thing and you can't see anymore with this, but it doesn't matter because you want to learn where the colors are. Then you make a new layer. And don't use the picker tool, even if it's very tempting. Yeah, it's very tempting to just go there with your handy, trusty picker and pick the color and hey, I got it. But that's not why we make the study. That's why it would be easy to just show off on the internet and say, yeah, I picked every color. Who cares? Nobody sees it. I make the study. But you should care because you made the study to learn how to pick colors. So if you go with the color picker here, you will not learn anything. I also recommend for the color, this area here, to set it to the ISB. What's the English? HSB. This setting where it's hue, saturation, and the black concentration, because there you can pick colors more easily than with the other sliders, because this is like, I don't know. it's very hard. So you go here and see, okay, I want to pick like the sky and it's in the blue area and yeah, maybe a little bit more saturation and yeah, this looks like it. And then we just paint it here and make a little palette. And you do this now with a few colors, so you think it's okay, and then you start painting. And because we don't have time for me to pick out every of these colors, I will use the color picker now.
Small question. Are you just using flat colors?
I paint the palette on a separate layer, but yeah, I paint it flat. I paint everything on one layer. In this way. What exactly do you mean?
No, you don't use any gradients in the color, just flats.
Yeah, in this case, because I want to learn colors, I just use the flat on-spot color. Because actually there are gradients, because here is a shadow and here is more light, so there is a gradient. But in this case, I want to study the colors, so I concentrate on the colors. If you make this with gradients, you can do both at the same time, but with speed painting, I would recommend focusing on one. You could just make it gray and study how the value works on the picture. This is also a thing you can study with speed paintings. It's, as I said, just focus on one. It's easier, and you don't get lost that easily, because if you start focusing on the form, on the value, and on the color on a speed painting, you will probably take 3 hours to finish it, to correct everything all the time. And you will not learn so much. If you just say, I learned the colors now, then it goes way easier. And then next time, values and so on. Yeah, just quickly make it. And the main part of this here is really just to learn how to see colors anyway. And I really just try to get this done on the composition. Yes, so the Photoshop is so bad. Yeah, I don't know why it's like totally bad. I pick now the colors from the picture because I really don't care. It's just to show you very quick. Ah shit! I don't even know if I can finish this. It's so laggy. I guess. Yeah.
I suppose if you resize the image and just make it smaller.
Yeah, maybe for now it works.
Let's try it. 2000 was now. question.
Yeah.
You're using a custom brush. I was wondering, maybe there are also some recommendations about brushes for speed painting.
Yeah, actually, that's a point I forgot, because I like to use this, just not a specific brush, just one with lots of texture, so you get a very unprecise image. If you want to study the colors, it's better not to focus too much on details, so I like to use this very greedy brushes. You can find a lot on DeviantArt, just download some and try them, which one you like best, because I can recommend you my brushes, like the one I like to use, but you probably like to use different ones, so it's different for everybody. But there's lots of resources on the internet to get brushes, especially for Photoshop. That's actually why I like to use Photoshop, but it doesn't really.
So it's a bad idea to just use your regular round brush.
It depends. I mean, if you want to, I like to use this brush because it just gathers colors. Like if you go here, you can pick more different colors and it gets this creepy feel. If you use your round brush, it can work too. It's not bad, but it's just my preference is to use this splattery brush with lots of texture. And basically, I don't even know if we should finish this now because it's really laggy and it doesn't really work that well. But yeah, this is what I wanted to tell you about references. And too bad it doesn't work so well. So yeah.
I have a question. Which type of tablet do you use? Is that a bamboo?
This one is a Cintiq companion.
Ah.
But
Okay.
I don't want to talk bad about it, but I'm actually not very happy with it because it lags. I can't use Photoshop, and Photoshop is my main tool, and yeah, it doesn't really work that well.
Yeah. I have a bamboos Intuos 4.
Yeah, they work good too. I mean, it doesn't really matter what tablet you use if you start off, because you can, if you can draw with it, it's okay. I mean, if you want to start making detailed line art and everything, I would go to the Intus Pro series just because they have more pressure sensitivity, and it's for line arts it's better to make it like that. But for you can work with every rating actually, except this one.
Well, it doesn't really matter what software you're using, right?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter actually, but I'm used to Photoshop. It's a matter of just getting used to it and use your brushes you always use, and if this doesn't work, you can use Sai, works the same there. But if you're used to your brush and then you have to use a different one, you just get pissed.
Yeah. I prefer my paint because it has an infinite canvas.
Yeah. There's
Actually.
many different programs, and I recommend just to try out the most you can. Most programs have trial versions. Just download them, try it, work with it. And
Some are free.
yeah, Photoshop is extremely expensive.
I can just make a small sorry. If I can just make a small recommendation. Usually I use Sai and Sketchbook, whatchamacallit, for line arts and stuff. And I use either Painter or Photoshop for colors.
Yeah.
And then I also use Illustrator. Print.
Yeah, and Illustrator is awesome. I sadly don't have Illustrator because it's just not. Photoshop doesn't even work here, so I don't.
Yes, and as for me, I use my paint for rough sketches and use Krita for more developed work, because both software are free and it's pretty useful.
Yeah, as I said, if you get used to the program, you can actually use everything. I like to use Photoshop because of the color corrections you can do afterwards. All the other stuff you use to photo correct, actually, for photographs. I used to put this on my images too, I paint. And I can also give you a recommendation about another little program I found. If you have a program making line arts in Photoshop or other programs that doesn't have this like nice line correcting tool, Sai has and Manga Studio has this, you can also just use Lazy Natsumi. It's a really cheap little app, and it goes in between your tablet driver and the program, and it makes line smoothing. And if you like Photoshop, you would probably love this thing because it makes making line arts much easier.
Could we get a small demonstration?
Oh, laser to me? Yeah, yeah, sure. I mean, Photoshop lags extremely. I can show you, but it's a little bit stupid right now. I mean, you can also come later try it on the computer itself, and you will probably see it better. Like if you draw here, it's a thing of feel. You can't really see it. This is without it, and if you turn it on, it makes this. It makes it much. Yeah, because there's another program in between, but it actually smooths your lines. If you draw it thought and you try to, for example, you draw a dragon tail, and you have to draw this long line and draw another long line that goes from it, and you see this doesn't look very nice. It looks like shit, actually. And with this program, it's very easy because it gives you some time and smooths the lines. That's what Sai makes so interesting. Yeah, that's a little recommendation from me too.
Is this program for Windows and Mac both?
They want to make a Mac version of it soon, but for now it's only for Windows, sadly. And it costs $30 for 5 licenses a lifetime, so it's really cheap.
Oh, okay.
It's worth it. If you use Photoshop a lot, if you have other programs like Manga Studio, Sai, you could probably use it. Yeah. Yes?
Only in German. I cannot use English very well. Kann man da auch die Druckstufen einstellen?
Ja,
Also,
du kannst da auch verschiedene Sachen einstellen, dass du zum Beispiel nicht so fest aufdrücken musst. Das kann man da alles machen. Ich meine, ich habe es nicht benutzt, aber es geht. Du
und das
kannst
kostet $15.
30.
30, okay.
Aber just visit the website and you can see all this all about it. I bought it recently and I fell in love with it because it makes my life much easier. No. I bought it, I tried it, and I was like, I like Photoshop better. It's just preferences. I mean, if you start out, you can use almost any program, it makes no difference. But if you get used to one program, it's a pain in the ass to get used to another one, and you think, why should I do that? Because the final product is the same anyway, or should be the same, because you produce the art, not the program. So. Any other questions?
I prefer free software.
Any questions, answers? Okay. Guess we're done. If you want to, you can try it. You can try the program yourself.
Let's go.